And one of them is Bigfoot, Sasquatch, these cryptids, zoological.
They say life is what happens to you on the way that you try to get to where you're going. And in this case, life is a small desk in the basement of your old house and talking into your iPhone with terrible audio quality. It's meeting people along the way that end up becoming a large part of what it is that you're making. So we're going back to episode number 1. And then we're starting all over. See where we've come, where we went through, and maybe some episodes along the way that you didn't catch. So join me as we hear old episodes and meet old friends for the first time. In this week's Bigfoot Society Classic. On this classic episode, you'll hear me record an episode of Bigfoot Society while I'm in my car doing an Uber run in 2019. The audio quality is not so good, and the rambling is pretty impressive. So sit back and enjoy this great episode of Bigfoot Society Classic, the one while I'm actually Ubering in downtown Des Moines. Also, I'm pretty sure I was parked for most of it, so, safety first. Real quick, do me a favor. It's free. Please subscribe to the platform that you're on. Follow the channel on YouTube, podcast platform. Subscribe there and share an episode in the show with your friend. Let's get at it. Thank you.
All right, this is episode 3 of Bigfoot Society podcast coming at you while I'm recording this on May the 4th, Star Wars Day. So for all you Star Wars nerds like me out there, special for you, here's a fun little tidbit I read. Don't know if it's true because I wasn't there, but supposedly when they were filming Return of the Jedi, they had to have special crew with Peter Mayhew when he was in his Chewbacca costume, because it was being filmed in the Redwood Forest in, Pacific Northwest, California. And they didn't want people shooting at him because they would think he was Bigfoot. Pretty fantastic. So, also, rest in peace, Peter Mayhew, awesome actor of our time. Very unfortunate passing there. This is the actor who played Chewbacca in the Star Wars films. Also in news today, tomorrow, and all of you listening to this probably already heard this. You've already heard episode 0 of the Bigfoot and Beyond podcast. Hopefully, if you haven't, check it out. But tomorrow, full episode 1 of Bigfoot and Beyond podcast. And I know I'm butchering the name of it, but I'm also doing this in my car as well, so I can't look at the full name. I don't have it memorized yet. Anyways, it's Bobo and Cliff from Finding Bigfoot. Fantastic news, because they are hilarious. I'm just ecstatic that they are finally doing a podcast. Hoped they would for a long time, and now they finally are. I mean, in the few minutes of episode 0 that we've heard, these guys are hilarious, and Cliff alone is a wealth of knowledge. I've heard him on many podcasts. I haven't heard Bobo yet, so hopefully that will be amazing as well. I'm sure it will be. And I'm sure, people of that caliber, Cliff and Bobo, the guests that they'll be able to get are going to be fantastic. So really looking forward to that. In fact, if you guys are listening to the podcast, which I'm sure you are, I would love to interview either one of you or the two together, you both together, or separately, whatever. Let's make it happen and figure it out. And it'd be the first awesome interview on the Bigfoot Society podcast. Also in Bigfoot news, we've got the Ohio Bigfoot Conference going on today. Pretty big conference in the Bigfoot world. Excuse that motorcycle. But I believe Cliff and Bobo are there as well. Another thing maybe in the future Bigfoot Society could go to, that would be like on the bucket list to actually go to Bigfoot conference. And can you imagine doing a live podcast there at a Bigfoot conference? Like, that would be amazing. It'd be totally like what happens at the Comic-Cons, where you have like live podcasts. I would love that. Anyways, I'm saying it here. Also, if you want to share your Bigfoot sighting story, or you want to share a story, or you want to be interviewed, or you're up for being interviewed, or you're like, whatever, I would love if you could contact me, DM me using the at Bigfoot Society Instagram. Send me a DM there, or you can send me an email at bigfootsociety@gmail.com. It is going to reach me quicker on the Instagram just because I'm more involved with that. But I would love to get some actual interviews going on. That'd be fantastic. I need to crank out these episodes a little bit more regularly is my goal. Kind of slacking on that. So I heard this clip on the Sasquatch Chronicles podcast, and it kind of got me to thinking. So this guy brought up, and I can't remember his name, sorry, but he brought up how it's kind of ridiculous that people go into this woods to mess with a creature that's kind of the equivalent of at least a grizzly bear, probably even more massive, and just kind of poke at it, get it to respond, or like mess around with it, right? That's crazy. And then I started thinking, like, why are we attracted to finding this this Bigfoot or this Sasquatch? I started thinking, like, what drew me to it originally, and I started thinking back to how it started out with watching In Search Of, the famous In Search Of with Leonard Nimoy and all these different shows. And I think it's because we live in a world that is so bombarded with knowledge. We can find knowledge at the click of a button. All I have to do is search for something. Literally, I'm typing it in, clicking a button, and I have everything I could ever want about the subject. However, in this crazy world, there are still things that we don't know. And one of them is Bigfoot, Sasquatch, these cryptids, zoological, and we don't know, and we can't look them up. And I think that just frustrates us as human beings. Maybe we don't really feel frustrated, but I think that gets us, and we've got to figure it out. There are certain human beings, I'm one of them, that I've got to figure something out. And so you've got these people, and they've got maybe, oral traditions from Native Americans. They've got stories written down by Teddy Roosevelt, but we still haven't really nailed it down. And so that's why you have, people out there. You've got professors at universities. You've got, people that are going out into the bush and the wild trying to find this. You've got people that are using their own money to find it. You've got people that are being put on by different TV channels. I mean, the money that's being put into finding, what is Bigfoot is incredible. And it comes down to, it could be, Joe Schmo on the corner is looking for Bigfoot. It could be people there's celebrities that look for Bigfoot. It's absolutely crazy. And you would think that coming up someday, we would finally get some sort of evidence, big evidence, And I love the podcast, Wild Thing, where they talk about, getting the samples and having them researched out, not this time, but maybe next time. And just that quest for knowledge is fantastic. I think that it really takes us as humans. It's like we're fish in the water, and there's this hook, and the bait is, what is Bigfoot? And we just go after that bait, and boom, it hooks us forever. It's not crazy to think that in maybe my lifetime or a next generation, we will finally find a sample, as in a living specimen or a dead specimen or something. I mean, just look at how long it took to actually find the gorillas in Africa. It wasn't that long ago if you look it up. I want to say it was the late 1800s. Can't look it up right now because I don't have that memorized. So if you want to blast me an email or comment on my Instagram posts on at Bigfoot Society, definitely go ahead and let me know the actual date. Another thing that I want to say thank you for is the cool thing about using Anchor for podcasts is that I can see statistics on where my listeners are. And I was blown away the other day that I've got listeners for this podcast all over the place. The main place is Texas, which at first I was a little surprised at, but then I was like, whoa, you've heard about Area X. You've seen it, Area X mentioned in great detail on the Trail of Bigfoot. If you haven't watched that documentary yet, it's fantastic. I love the episode that goes into Area X. So if you're from Texas, you're listening to this, thank you so much for listening to this podcast. And I've got listeners, man, you guys are all over the place. Washington, Oregon. I've got listeners in the UK, in London, Scotland. I mean, you guys are incredible. There's a thirst for Bigfoot all around the world. In fact, if you guys are listening to this podcast, if you could do me a favor, and if you go over to @Bigfoot Society, there's going to be a post that'll say, hey, this is the new episode. If you could comment on that and say, I listen to Bigfoot Society podcast and I'm from fill in the blank. You can just be your state or your country, and I would love to see all the comments on that post. I know you guys are out there. I mean, there's a ton of listeners all over the world. It's pretty cool. So thank you for listening, taking the time out of your day to listen to me, ramble a little bit about Sasquatch. That's what I like to do. I would love to hear some feedback from you guys because I know you're listening. What's some feedback about what you would like to hear me talk about next? My next big goal for the podcast is I would want to desperately get an interview, and I got to set that up and, do the whole okay, it's going to be on the computer. It's going to be Skype. It's going to be headphones, blah, blah, blah. But I want to get an interview. That should be cool. I've always loved kind of a little journalism side to me. Love writing articles. I was able to be a PA on Terror in the Skies, the new Seth Breedlove documentary is coming out. I am a PA on that for second unit, which means that my friend Andrew had me say the questions, come up with some questions, read some to the guys that we were interviewing about things like the Van Meter visitor and different Thunderbird type legends. So that was pretty awesome. Shout out for that. But yeah, please feedback about what our next steps will be. Greatly appreciate that. Be awesome. Also, before I finish this quick episode, giving a plea out, send me a direct message on Instagram at Bigfoot Society. If you have an amazing story about Bigfoot that you have not shared with anyone before, I want at Bigfoot Society to be the place where you share it, where you feel secure to be able to share that with me would be amazing. Send me your story on Instagram if you want to type it out, or if you want to do an interview about it, we can do that too. We can set that up. You contact me if you want to have Bigfoot Society, the place where you finally share your Bigfoot story with the rest of the world. I think it would be fantastic. Hit me up. And remember, check out Bigfoot and Beyond, the new podcast from Bobo and Cliff coming out. And remember, we're going to get them on the show eventually. Bobo and Cliff, if you're listening, I know you are, hit me up. I'm going to be hitting you up, and we're going to get you on the show. All right. Squatch out, guys. I'm going to come up with a good tagline, but for now, stay squatchy. Squatch on. Squatcharoo. I don't know. We'll come up with a good one. If you can come up with a good tagline, something for me to end the show saying cheesy like, let me know as well. Stay cool, Squatchers. All right. Peace out. Stay squatchy.
All right. Future Jeremiah checking back in. Glad you made it through that episode. Something I noticed that was really cool. Currently, the goal of Bigfoot Society is to give people a platform built on safety and respect to share their Bigfoot encounter. I had forgotten what I had talked about in this episode, and I pretty much had the same thing way back then in 2019. Now, did I get a little distracted, as you'll find out, and have to do a few hundred episodes interviewing random people in cryptozoology? Yeah, and I wouldn't trade those episodes for the world. But eventually, I do get back to that original goal that I had that came out in this episode. I hope you enjoy these throwback classic episodes every Wednesday. And remember, share this show, share this episode with a friend. Please make sure you're subscribed, and I'll see you next episode. Thanks for listening. Here at Bigfoot Society, our goal is to provide a platform for those that have encountered Bigfoot to share their encounter in a safe and respected environment. But we need to hear your story. If you've experienced something that you just can't explain, please send me an email at bigfootsociety@gmail.com. Then we can start the conversation. And I know a lot of you have not shared your encounter at all. It's been 20 years, and it's time that you get this off your chest, and then you can get some well-deserved rest, because I know you haven't been sleeping. I understand what you're going through, and I appreciate every one of you listening.